Good evening and welcome to Asaase Business PM with me, Kevin Annan, and I'm here with my co-host,
Rosemary Balami.
Tonight on the SDG-Hub, we will discuss the topic, Women in Energy, Breaking Barriers and Building a Greener Tomorrow. And to discuss this, we have with us Francisca Ziniel. She's a Deputy Executive Director of CYNESA and Coordinator for West Africa. And we also have with us Gifty Agbenyefia, who is GreenFaith. She's from GreenFaith Ghana, Organiser and Head of Biodiversity team at SYND Ghana. Business PM is brought to you in partnership with the Center for Sustainable Transformation, CeST. Good evening once again. If you just tuned in, you're listening to the Business PM, the SDG-Hub here on Asaase Radio, and welcome to another enlightening episode on our weekly SDG-Hub, as I said, your go-to platform for in-depth conversations on pressing global issues and sustainable development goals, run by the Center for Sustainable Transformation, CeST, here on Asaase Radio. I'm your host, Kevin Annan, and as usual, I'm here with my co-host,
Rosemary Balami.
She's from the Young Reporters for the Environment, YRE Ghana, a program under CeST. As the climate crisis continues to impact our planet, the role of women in driving sustainable energy solutions is more critical than ever. Today we are focusing on the topic that is not only pivotal for sustainable development but also for gender equality. Women in energy, breaking barriers, building a greener tomorrow, with a spotlight on upcoming Women in Energy conference. The energy sector has traditionally been male-dominated, but we are seeing a growing number of women breaking through these barriers, bringing innovative solutions and leadership to the forefront of the green energy movement. We will be exploring inspiring stories, challenges, and triumphs, and discover how we can work together to create a more equitable and sustainable energy landscape for generations to come.
Rightly said, Kevin, and it's not just about inclusion, it's about leveraging diverse perspectives to drive the transition towards a more sustainable and equitable energy future. Today's episode is especially significant because we are also highlighting the upcoming Africa Regional Conference on Women in Energy Movement building. The importance of this gathering cannot be overstated as it aligns with the global commitment to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius and address the unique vulnerabilities and strengths of women in the fight against climate change.
Absolutely, Rose. So joining us today to discuss this transformative event and the broader themes of climate justice and women's empowerment are two incredible leaders from GreenFaith Africa and SYND. They have been at the forefront of these efforts, advocating for sustainable and just energy transitions. We are glad to be joined in the studios once again by Francisca Ziniel, Deputy Executive Director of CYNESA and Coordinator for West Africa, and also Gifty Agbenyefia, GreenFaith Ghana Organiser and Head of Biodiversity team at SYND Ghana. You're welcome, ladies, to the SDG-Hub. It's good to have you here today. We'll start with our usual introduction of our guests. So would like each one of you to tell us briefly about yourselves. I'll start with you, Gifty.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Rose, once again for having us. My name, as you already mentioned, is Gifty Agbenyefia, and I know I started with a background of communication, but some way, somehow I found myself in the environmental field, and then it's been very challenging and insightful journey throughout. And so today we are here to basically discuss about the upcoming conference, which will throw much light on subsequently. Thank you.
All right, Francisca.
Yes, my name is Francisca Dommetieru Ziniel. I am with CYNESA, and CYNESA is the Catholic Youth Network for Environmental Sustainability in Africa. So in Ghana, we are a young group that is trying our best to coordinate all Catholic youth in Ghana, especially women and children, in driving home the message of environmental sustainability. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So moving on, I would like you, GreenFaith Africa, to tell us about the Youth Network for Development and what inspired these organizations to focus on women in energy.
Okay, so the Strategic Youth Network for Development is a youth-oriented organization that is focused on active youth inclusion and environmental issues. So we work in 4 thematic areas, that is climate change, biodiversity, energy, access, and forestry. But then the quest for all to be included in the environmental discussion comes in when SYND partners or host GreenFaith in Ghana. So GreenFaith is also a non-governmental organization that focuses on inclusion of religious leaders of faith society. So it's not just about Christianity, it's not just about Muslim, it's about all the faiths that we have identified, because faith leaders and the faith community have a role to play when it comes to conservation of the nature. There's one thing that we all agree on, or all our teaching promote. So that is GreenFaith for you, and we have offices across Africa, Nigeria. We have an office in Tanzania, Uganda, and they all have various campaigns that they are focusing on. We also have presence in the US and Indonesia. So for Ghana, we are here being hosted by SYND. And that is how come I met my colleague here, Francisca.
Nice, yeah.
Awesome. Francisca, now to you. Would you like to add anything to what she said before we move on?
Yes, so as she mentioned, GreenFaith is widely located, and for CYNESA, because we are an African base, we also realize that there's a need for collaboration. So collaboration, we are all young people and people of faith who are advocating for climate and for the environment. So collaborating on the same angle is best, and we are also women, so that's good.
Indeed.
We are happy for you. Now let's talk more about the upcoming conference. Can you share some more information about the Africa Regional Conference on Women in Energy Movement Building and its objectives? Francisca, would you like to go with us?
Yes, so the upcoming conference, one of the key things that we are looking at as women is that for women, first of all, we need information, we need awareness, we need education. So coming to have such a conference here, we are not saying that our women are not informed, but we are saying that information must be focused. And what is focused about it? We are looking at clean energy, we are looking at sustainability, and then renewable energy. So bringing that message to Africa, to Ghana, and getting it to our indigenous people is going to be a right way for all of us achieving the 2030 goals for SDG-7.
All right, Gifty.
So as she rightly mentioned, the conference is focused on women, particularly collecting the stories of the real life impacts that are happening on the ground. So if you are saying fossil fuel exploration or even extractive industry, and what are some of the real life impacts that affect women and girls in this community? So it's about sharing the stories, looking at the gap that has been identified, and then looking at how we can address this program. So it's more or less like a movement targeted towards women across Africa, and then how we can all be included in the discussion at the end of the day.
All right, and why is it crucial for Africa's sustainable development?
It is crucial because women are at the heart of everything. Now, before we started the show, Francisca was telling me that your first teacher is your mother. So if your mother doesn't, if your mother teaches you to have environmental conservation at the back of your mind, then it means that you would go a long way, and then the country or even local level will go a long way in achieving these goals. Now, if you are talking about environmental or sustainable development goals, it also means that for us to achieve these targets, then we need to liaise with all the groups, particularly women and children, when it comes to solving or promoting nature-based solutions. So if the crises are impacting their livelihood in a negative way, then it means that the daily life of a woman would go a long way to even impede economic growth at the end of the day. So those are some of the issues that we are looking at, and we are hoping that this conference would right some of the injustice that has resulted as a result of climate change.
All right, still on you, Gifty. So the upcoming conference aims to analyze the specific impact of oil drilling on women and girls, right? So how does this oil drilling and fossil fuel projects specifically impact women and girls in Africa?
Okay, so I would want to take it from the angle of agriculture. So if there's oil spill, definitely it's going to also affect the quality of soil. Okay, then that means the produce that maybe the average woman depends on, that yield will no longer come to light. Take it from a fishing angle also. If we are in a coastal community and then there's an oil spill, then it means that she will not even be able to get the fish that she will need to smoke for you to be able to even buy. Then where are we going as a country? So then it's not only affecting their livelihoods, it's affecting the land system, it's affecting their economical livelihood. So then it means that people would even have to migrate to be able to get another job to feed their family. And when people migrate, then it means that they are leaving behind their ancestral or cultural norms. But these are some of the things that we hold in high faith as people of faith in Africa, because if we don't believe in that, then I mean, where are we going? So those are some of the things that is affecting us indirectly or directly on women.
All right, and can you elaborate on why this focus is so crucial for climate justice?
I think I would want
So yes, so as she already gave the example, I think we have been talking about this, and I was telling Gifty about an example of an oil drilling city. These cities mostly become expensive, and we all know our cultural norm is that women are nurturers, they are caregivers. So you find women who are relegated to the background. They have to kind of give social help and then caregiving to the men who are mostly working in this industry. So sometimes, I mean, as difficult as it is for us to mention, sex exploitation comes in, and this kind of impact on the young girls. Some of them need money to buy as basic as sanitary pads. They need money to buy their stuff just to be able to go to school. Women need to feed their families because, as she's saying, when there's oil spillage or if there's drilling happening, the fishermen have to go further away from the coast that they used to fish. So they leave women responsible for their family, and this kind of impact upon their lives. And talking about climate justice, those days, as I was telling Gifty, our mothers used to go like 2 kilometers to fetch water. Now they are going as far as 20 kilometers to fetch water. So life expectancy is now low compared to those days. And then hardship, they are developing back aches and all that. So you see that health-wise, all these things are hampering on women's health, hampering on. So having this conference, we want to inform them. We want them to be aware. We want to educate them. And in all that, with climate justice in mind, because at the end of the day, if you are having challenges, who do you go to? Where do you seek help? So these are some of the focuses on.
Indeed. So still on you, Francisca, the conference, aims to amplify the voice of grassroots faith women in Africa, right?
Yes. So
could you share some examples of how these women are already contributing to climate justice?
So let's come to Ghana. This year, Easter, so the Catholic Youth Network for Environmental Sustainability, we felt that let's do something different about Easter. So the 40 days, instead of the normal fasting, prayers and almsgiving, we had something we call Green Lent. And this Green Lent was to educate and create awareness about the environment, sustainable way as basic that people can do to contribute. I am the leader. Our communication director is also a woman queen, though we had our men supporting us. Our policy dialogue, we had a woman judge coming to support us. So the role of women cannot be overemphasized. We are doing our best, and we are doing a lot.
Indeed. So the theme of our show today is breaking barriers. What are some of the significant barriers that women face in the energy sector, and how can we collectively work to overcome them? Gifty.
So I think we've already highlighted some of the barriers, but one is the energy sector today. How will I even put this? So most of the new forms of employment opportunities coming up under the energy sector do not really promote like women employment in the area. So then what is the solution that we are going to look at? Promotion of green jobs, or maybe solar irrigation systems,
energy options.
Exactly, that do support or complement their livelihood. And some of the things that we are looking at. So if those are the problems that, so at the conference, we are not just going to do more of talking this and this. No, we want them to bring or tell us the stories as it's reaching them. Let them come up with their own campaign or advocacy strategy so that it is addressed by them. And then at the end, we are hoping that green businesses and renewable energy stand out, and then we keep the oil in the ground so that we stop destroying the environment or exploiting the extractive sector, aiming to get revenue.
So this oil issues is actually happening in Ghana?
It is. The impacts are real. I would say that I visited a community recently. I know Accra is hot, and for that community to be hotter and for it to be a coastal community, I was telling my colleague actually we really have a long way to go in this fight. So the impacts are there if you look at it critically, and then it's sad that these companies or these investments do not even more or less look at how to promote economic activities in the country. So some more often than not, they trade them in alternate livelihoods, and you yourself, you don't even buy from them. So then how do you expect their business to grow? You get it. So those are some of the issues that we are looking at.
All right, Francisca. Yeah. So during this conference, right, you were discussing the transition to renewable energy. What specific strategies do you recommend to facilitate this transition?
So, strategic, as we mentioned earlier, to be informed is to be empowered. So strategically, we want to inform the people, and not just inform them. As she mentioned, we want to educate them. Not just educate them, we also want to empower them with some, necessary skills. So we are, for instance, I was giving her an example. If you go to the northern part of the country, especially Upper West, you have that most of the women go to farm to look for wood so that they can come and do charcoal. These women, if they are empowered, they know that cutting down trees are a problem. When they go, they are going to look for, let me say, dead trees. They are going to look for dead wood. It's not going to change anything. They are not going to destroy the environment, but they are going to be looking for a sustainable way of keeping up their livelihood. So you are not going to cut down a tree, but are there dead wood or dead trees there that we can use? Yes. And all these things, it's only when they are informed.
They are empowered
That's
enough.
True.
Exactly. Exactly.
And to you, Gifty, are there any policy changes that you think will be needed to accelerate the transition to renewable energy in Africa?
For now, we are looking at how we can help achieve the energy transition plan. So that is why mostly we are promoting renewable energy. So riding on the back of the energy transition plan in Ghana, how do our activities contribute to the success of that? So those are most of, so I wouldn't say, the policies are there, it can be reviewed, but if some of these impacts are not included or being set by these women or given the opportunity to specifically talk or address these issues, then if you change the policy anyhow, the problem will still be there. Yes. So now it's more or less like a grassroots approach, trying to get the stories involved, and where it's involved, how can they now influence some of the policies that are ongoing.
Indeed.
All right, Francisca, back to you again. The IPCC report highlights the severity of climate emergency. So how do you think the findings in this report can influence policies and initiatives aimed at protecting vulnerable groups, especially women and girls?
Yes, so looking at the finding, if you read all and you summarize, you will see that the finding is saying that it is crucial to safeguard vulnerable people, that is especially women and children. And if you read, you will see that they've talked about mental health. So like I mentioned, the because of what is happening to the climate, women are more stressed, because these women are the caregivers. They are the ones looking for the water. They are the ones looking for the firewood. If you go to some communities, they are the farmers and they are the gatherers. So you see that there's more pressure on these women to work. So mental health issues are here. We are talking about the report, also talking about the increase of climate-related illnesses. And when you look at it, most of these, sometimes people don't want to talk about it, but even the normal woman monthly flow is affected by climate change. And I mean, this one the men will not understand. We are not saying that men are not undergoing any mental health challenges, but we are saying that women are at a higher risk because of the other beautiful additions that God has given to women.
Ones, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So you see that, I mean, not only this, she talked about migration. Sometimes the husbands, and I'm always giving an example of the north because that is where I come from.
Okay.
If you go back to the Upper West region, mostly you have the men migrating to the south to work, to farm, and we call it John. When the men migrate to the south to farm, it is the women that are burdened with the caregiving of the home. So how do we address these things? And that is letting the women understand that this is the role that they are playing, and this is how best they can play this role, giving them support with some climate-related education, some awareness, and also pointing to policy change. As she mentioned, in the grassroots, we believe that with our little campaigns, with our little advocacy, at the end of the day, we will have policy impact.
Indeed.
Yes.
So Gifty, back to you. Let's look at education and capacity building. It is very, very important for us, empower people. They said knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
So part of the conference, do you have any plans aside, being in a room to discuss issues to go?
Oh yes. Yeah. So the conference is for 2 days.
Okay.
But then aside that, then it means that we need to go into the community to hear the stories, as I was saying earlier. But it's not only about hearing the stories, because all the women coming for the meeting are coming from different parts of Africa. Now, it is very important that they are able to share their stories for others to learn and write on some of the success stories that have been done in that area. So it is all about raising awareness. It is all about empowering. And then the saying goes that if you educate a woman, you educate an entire nation. So then, please. So then we are looking at how then do we duplicate the stories for others to learn from what the other regions are doing, and then forming a formidable movement across.
Great. But when is this happening?
So the conference is happening on the 27th to 28th of May, and then subsequently the community engagement.
Here in Accra?
Yes, please.
It has participants from all over Africa?
Yes, please. And it will be held at the Mecklin Hotel.
So how do you plan to ensure that the voices and recommendations from this event lead to tangible actions and policy changes?
So at the end of the day, we are looking at creating a campaign strategy. That is one. And then secondly, creating a movement or a platform where these women can best address some of the issues that they face in their respective countries or communities. So when you have a campaign strategy, then it means that you can properly now address some of the issues as it comes in, and then look at the appropriate communication channels to use and to raise awareness along that. And then that comes in also with subsequent capacity building or education channels that you would be connected to.
Fantastic.
All right. Our time is almost up. So we're wrapping up very briefly. How can we ensure that women's voices and perspectives are included in the global conversation on energy and climate justice? Very briefly. Francisca, you go first.
Yes, so briefly, as we are both coming from the faith background, we want to talk about, I was telling her, when you look at Africa or Ghana, most of us, we rely on our various faith groups. I am a Catholic, and then I feel comfortable with the church educating me, with the church giving me information, because I trust that information as a Catholic. So I would like to encourage the church, not just the Catholic Church, but the Christian community, that God has given it to us. He says it is his footstool, and he has asked us to use it and to protect it, not to exploit it. Therefore, in our sermons, in our church activities, the voice on climate and on environmental sustainability should be louder than prosperity and other things, because we will not prosper if the earth is not there for us. Thank you very much.
So just where she ended off, I think the religious leaders or the faith society has the power to tell the role of telling truth to power. So as she said, it's not all about prosperity, but it's about highlighting some of these grave impacts that happen. Because mind you, when the impacts happen, it is you, the faith leader, that's at the receiving end. If your congregation is not sane, then you cannot go on to preach your message for them to even understand what you are saying. So all we are saying is that all the stakeholders are important. Faith leaders also have a role to play when it comes to climate discussion.
So quickly, social media handles for the
GreenFaith Africa, GreenFaith Ghana.
Okay, great.
All right, that's all the time we have for tonight's enlightening conversation. A heartfelt thank you to our guests for sharing their valuable insights and experiences with us. And for our listeners, remember that the upcoming Africa Regional Conference on Women in Energy Movement Building is a pivotal event. It's an opportunity to amplify the voices of women who are at the heart of climate action and to push for the changes that we urgently need. Don't forget to follow GreenFaith Africa and SYND for updates on the conference on their initiatives.
So please tune in same time next week as we continue discussions on all things sustainable development right here on Asaase Radio 99.5 so that people and the planet can prosper. If you have any topic you want us to discuss, please share with us and shoot an email to sdghub@cestint.org. Remember, dear listeners, to keep raising your voices, keep advocating for change, and keep tuning into the SDG Hub for more insightful conversations. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep working towards a sustainable future.
And that's a wrap on the SDG Hub. Thank you for staying with us here on Asaase Radio. We've been speaking with Francisca Ziniel, Deputy Executive Director of CEST and Coordinator for West Africa. We've also had Gifty, Agbenyefia, GreenFaith Ghana Organization, and Head of Biodiversity Team at SYND Ghana. I've been your host, Kevin Annan, and I did this with my co-host,
Rosemary Balami.
We go back to Caleb.